Okay, so now we're recording. So yeah, so actually when I do these for my class, I will take this sticky note right here that says record, and I stick it in the middle of my computer screen, and I actually I leave it there until I push the record button, because it really, really sucks at Rock if you get to the end of this really good session and you didn't record it. And then you have to create something for all the people that weren't there. So that's really terrible. And I try never to do that. So I always do leave myself that little note just in the middle of my computer screen until the meeting starts. So you can also in Zoom set it to record as soon as you open your meeting. Just FYI, as soon as you start it, it will start recording. So if you're sitting there eating your chips or whatever, it is also recording that. So, which I have also done and then had to edit my recording. So, FYI. But yeah, so if you are the host of the meeting, when you go to those managed participants, you do have the ability to kind of kick people out, mute them, unmute them all. In the bottom right-hand corner, if you are, I don't know, can everybody see breakout rooms, Tracy, or can only the host see it?
Only you get to see it.
Yeah, so there's a little button called breakout room, so I could actually send my class into different rooms so they could talk to each other, and then I could jump into the different rooms and stuff.
You can do it right now.
Okay, we'll try it. So I'm gonna I'll do 2 rooms. I'll do 3 rooms. Okay, so you're gonna be jumped into somebody else's room. Say hi.
Hi. Are you guys in my room?
Hey.
Oh, here we are. Back.
So I joined your room.
Probably a couple people know me at COS.
Yeah, no, I'm at West Hills right now.
Oh, at West Hills.
Kurt's.
Okay.
For a second.
So when it broke out to my room, I couldn't hear anybody else.
I think you were in there with Jennifer and Diane, maybe. And so, okay, it's going to close the rooms in 1 minute. So I think, so could you leave your room automatically, Becky?
There was a little button that said leave room.
Okay.
So I left it and came back because it made me really nervous. I was all by myself in a room.
So, so that is definitely something you can try. Yeah. We lost Brent somehow. Oh, wait, no.
No, I'm here.
Hide Becky on the
room.
Okay.
In the closet.
So you can actually change people's names. So
as the host.
Students really like Zoom. I've used Big Blue Button. I've used CCC Confer. And this by far, I feel like I get the most response out of my students, the more cameras on, more talking than some of the other things. Okay.
Tegrity, better than doing a recording on?
So, yeah, so Tegrity is going to be a little bit more like Camtasia. Tracy, I'm going to do my screen share with the iPad. Do you want to talk about the difference between Tegrity and then this real quick?
I don't know what Tegrity is.
Well, it's Camtasia. What's the difference between Camtasia and something like this?
Sure. This one is like Skype. So we're video chatting right now. You're not, with Camtasia, you're not inviting students or anything. You're just recording your screen.
Right.
You can also record your screen here if you wanted to. With the share screen, and Teresa will show you. You can see I was listening to some music here. But let me grab you can take in, draw on it and stuff. And the cool part is that your students will be able to do it with you, live. You don't have to, because you can also record and then post later. But this is also really neat for if you have a student that needs a quick show me how to do this really fast, for math or something. you can open up the screen and like work on it together, work on problems or work on assignments or something. Whereas with Camtasia, it's just you in the screen.
Do they have to have a camera in order to?
They don't.
Okay.
They don't even have to have a microphone. They can call in on their phones.
Like a webinar.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so right now I am zooming my iPad screen. So can you guys see my iPad screen? Okay, and so this is really cool. Also, so you can if you want to, you know, write on something, you can do that with students as well. So this is a really good way to kind of do presentations. I did an annotation conference with students one time. So I brought up the PDF of the article we were reading. I opened up my Apple Pen, and then they could, you know, follow along, and then we did those Zoom conferences. So I just wanted to kind of show you this, but this is a really good way. So
Question.
Yeah.
You are conducting this conference on your iPad, or are you?
I am doing it on my computer, and I am, when you go to share screen, there's an option where it says iPad mirroring, and your iPad needs to be on the same Wi-Fi signal as everything is your computer, and then you can mirror your iPad. So I am on my computer sharing my iPad screen. Okay. And so you can do an iPad or an iPhone. Either one will work.
I have a question also. If for you veteran, more experienced online people, when is the best time to do a Zoom? Like, is it in the evening or early morning, or when do you find that you get the most attendance for doing something like this with 100% online? If I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to Zoom and go over, you know, a project or go over something.
I do mine at noon. I do the same time every time. So I do noon, and then I record. And so then I'll post the recording to YouTube and put a link in your announcement. And so, but I have found I get the most attendance when I give them some kind of topic and don't just make it an open office hour. Nobody comes.
Here.
Oh,
I have the big guy over here.
I wasn't enjoying this. I was just running around.
Yay.
Yay!
So I think Jennifer, I don't know if she has her recording on, but I know Jennifer does conferences too. Do you do night or do you do during the day? You have to unmute. Oh, we can't hear you.
Is she there?
She's here.
Yeah.
Nope. There she is.
No. Unmute now.
She's not
Oh,
muted.
no.
She might not have a mic on her
I don't
computer.
even have her
Good.
in here.
I'm gonna
Might be tuned down.
Here.
Okay.
And then,
Have John run over there real quick.
Where do you want
Wait,
John to
try
go?
this. Am I
Yay.
coming through?
There you
Did it
are.
work? Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, we got her.
Yeah, I don't even know I have these earplugs in. It's not coming through there. Yes, I was going to ask you, Teresa, what is the difference between, because I use the big blue button thing. So what's the advantage of using Zoom besides the iPad thing, which looked really cool?
So I think, well, one, Tracy and I used Big Blue Button in a class we were taking over the summer, and the sound quality on it was really, really horrible.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that. I'd had students tell me that before,
Yeah.
but until I kind of experienced it myself, I was like, oh, there's a lot of glitching, and so I think in those ways it wasn't a great product.
Yeah.
And Zoom is now integrated into our Canvas.
Oh, it is. Good.
Yeah, so it's over. Yeah, it's over on the course tools on the left-hand side. So
Okay.
you already have access to it, which was why I was using Blue Button before,
Yeah.
because it was in there. So yeah, so I think kind of the limitations of Zoom previously.
Yeah.
And I also just really like the interface, and the ability to use it is just so much easier. When we were in Blue Button, I don't know if any of you have used it previously. it's got a lot of little boxes, and you can make the boxes bigger and you can make them smaller and you can move them around. And my students would like accidentally close boxes, and then they wouldn't know how to open them back up, and they couldn't find them on the screen, and screen sharing didn't always work. You had to have like some kind of Chrome plugin. And so I do think this is it's definitely a superior product. And for people that want to do more than one class at a time, Blue Button limits you to one class, and Zoom, you can invite whoever you want to.
Got it.
So we
Oh,
can-
sorry. And I was going to answer Becky. Becky, my advice is just to make sure you do it at the same time and then record. And the students who can make it will always make it, and the ones who can't will always go for the recording. And Teresa told me, have them write a summary of if they do the recording. So they try to make it. I did mine one at near 12 for one class, and then one at 3 to 3:30, and I had about the same amount of attendance. So
Okay.
Can you tell if they viewed the recording?
well, I would just have them write a summary of the recording. So if they didn't go listen to, I could tell ones that only went halfway through and that kind of
Sure,
stuff
sure.
just by what they wrote.
I just didn't know if Zoom had a feature to say like this has been viewed or.
Yeah.
I upload it to YouTube. Once I record it, records onto my computer, and then I upload it to YouTube, and then I share that YouTube link. I don't know what you do, Jennifer.
The Big Blue Button automatically did that in conferences.
Yeah.
So when you have conferences in Canvas, and the Big Blue Button will automatically put the recording up, and it sends you a little email. Your recording's ready, and it only stays there for 2 weeks. What does this Zoom do, Teresa?
It lives on YouTube for as long as you would like it to.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good.
So
feature.
then they can go back to it. And again, I don't caption these because they're my conferences, and I'm going to do a new one every semester. And so if I don't have a student that needs captioning, then I don't need to caption them because I'm not going to reuse them. I did have a student who was hard of hearing one semester, and I was using Big Blue Button that semester. So I moved to CCC Confer.
Yeah.
They have a live captioner that will come into your conference.
Oh.
You have to reserve that at least 48 hours in advance, I think. So you have to be a little bit more intentional about just creating your appointments.
Hey, Teresa, one more question. How do you capture attendance? I would make them write "I'm here" in chat on the Big Blue. It worked because then I would just take the chat column with all of their names, and that gave me the attendance.
If you look at the managed participants, there should be a little black bar on your screen somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
And it says managed participants. So I can see we have 9 participants in here. If I click on that, it'll give me a list.
Yeah.
And then I just write their names down. If I happen to have an embedded tutor in my conference with me, I'll put them in charge of attendance. I mean, I mean, if you have a lot of students, then I in Blue Button, I've had them do the chat before.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll join by phone, and so it's just a telephone number. So I'm like, hey, 559-20,
Yeah.
Is it important to do attendance, or is it just like for their benefit if you want to come to this?
I give them 5 points for the conference, either for the summary or attending live. So, and the thing is, nobody wants to write a summary.
Yeah.
So they will come live.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good way to kind of build attendance. And then they're there and they can ask questions and they can interact. So obviously, it's better for them than a recording anyway. And it's just a little like incentive. So they really want you to know they're there so that they don't have to write the summary. So it's,
Okay, my other question, I'm in Canvas on my other screen and I don't see Zoom. I'm in apps. I went to settings and apps. Where do I find Zoom in Canvas?
Navigation, you probably have to add it in. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It should be in your course tools. So you may have to go to navigation.
I'm in navigation. And then
is it drop down to the bottom?
I don't. I do. Confer Zoom.
Yeah.
Drag it up to the top.
And so just FYI, your Canvas email has to match the email that your Confer Zoom account was. So like my Confer Zoom account was old. It was because I did it a few years ago. So it was the @sccd.edu. So I had a little bit of trouble getting those to kind of merge together, but I just went into Canvas and changed my email, so that was fine.
So if I click on this Confer Zoom, it will have me create an account and then I'll be ready to go with it?
I'm not sure. Well, you may have to go to the website, but Tracy and I can help you.
Okay.
For sure.
Are you eventually going to show us how to set up like an appointment in Canvas?
On Zoom, you want to see it?
Here's what I want to see. I want to see you go in the module, add a Zoom meeting, set up a quick one, set up a Zoom meeting so that students can link to it. I think that'd be a quick, cool thing to see.
Okay, here, let me show you. I'm going to change my screen. I'll change it to Canvas. Okay, which screen can you see?
We see your college distance ed handbook.
I see your PC right now.
Now you see that?
I see your PC.
Okay, so if I go to Canvas, so this is generally what I do in to kind of alert students that we are, that we are going to have these conferences. So in my modules, I'll have these built, and then you can see where each conference is labeled. And so I make an assignment out of it. And then I just have the same message each time where it has the link to the conference. And Tracy can show you when you set your account up. So if you see,
so you have to set your account up, your schedule. You can't do it from inside.
You can now. So right here, I haven't done it that way, but this is where I'll put the Zoom meeting. But I just want to show you this real quick. So this is my Zoom meeting ID, 559-325-5256. So guess what that is?
Your school phone number.
Yeah. So you can set your meeting ID as your school number. And then so when students open up the Zoom app, it will automatically, they just can put your office phone number in, and that will be your meeting ID. Oh, here it is. So I don't know if my Confer Zoom is set up, Brent, because of the email issue that I had. But
that's what I was getting right there.
This, right? And then you just say, I don't want to click it because we're already in a Zoom meeting and it might kick us all out. Mm-hmm. But you could just quick launch a new event. You could do that right now, or you could schedule more events, right? And then your recordings then I think could live here. So I'll have to play with that a little bit more. Mine was not working correctly this semester, so I didn't start out that way. Oh, wait.
Have you guys gotten any excuses from people? Oh, I can't access that. I don't know how to do that.
How to deal with students.
Yeah. It's hard.
I want to say, I want to say honestly, with Zoom, with the fear of having to write their own summary, you definitely they'll figure it out so they don't have to write anything. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And so they just, so I haven't had a problem with it.
Can they get Zoom on their cell phones?
Yeah, it'll automatically download they can get it on their cell phones, or on your computer. It automatically downloads the app. So I just wanted to say a few things about accreditation next semester. And, I'm glad we had this really long kind of talk about Zoom, because you can definitely see how helpful this can be. And I think it just takes a little while to be on it and get used to talking on it. We're not always used to this kind of video conferencing. Tracy and I have been doing a lot of it for our program, and I also do it a lot for my classes. So I feel like you get very used to it after a while. It's kind of like talking on the phone or something, But
It's like
this is
Mr. Microphone.
one of the tools, right, that we have. All right, Brent, are you leaving?
Yes, you got that? I just let you know. Are you kicking me out? Yes.
No?
All right. I just wanted you to know I got to go to a meeting.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Brent.
Bye.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, and because I think this kind of scares everybody for accreditation, and one thing we know, when accreditation comes, they will go into all of our classes, okay? So they will be there looking at what we do, and from what I've heard, what they're really, really looking for, in addition, obviously, to accessibility concerns, is they're really looking for how do we establish regular and effective contact with our students. And so I just wanted to go over some of the ways that we can and some of the fears that are out there and what is not regular and effective contact, right? So one of the things is I want to say is don't hear the headlines. You know, I don't know if you guys have been reading up on sort of this Western Governors Association school. It's kind of back east. It's a competency-based model. They just had to pay back $713 million because they were not meeting their R&E requirements. And I want to talk about why that doesn't, I mean, it could apply to us, definitely, if we're not meeting them, but basically their whole model didn't meet them, and that was kind of the problem. Like, they were a school that was built around a model that was not like ours, okay? They didn't have regular semesters. They didn't have like classes that students enrolled in, right? And so those things definitely apply. Things I want you to be aware of where should I be looking for information about these things. And one of them is our Clovis Community College Distance Education Handbook, okay? That is definitely a place where we can really, where we've really outlined the policies for our institution. And I emailed that to you every single time I emailed you. So you got it 3 times. If your mailbox is full, you might want to delete a couple of those because that's probably eating up your space. Okay. Title V regulations. Tracy and I have a certification class. So, you know, if you're kind of unsure about those, we definitely have those in there, and she can just put you in there for some like refreshers if you want to go through the law. And further clarification for the Title V regulations are really found in a couple of Dear Colleague letters that I recently found. And so I'm going to talk about those a little bit. But those are issued by federal financial aid. And they are really clarifying, because they're, again, it's all about this issue of this competency-based sort of institutions. And so they really try to go through and clarify what is effective contact and what is not. And obviously ACCJC has some guidelines too that we'll go over. So the difference between competency-based education and distance ed, you can kind of think about competency-based as our old correspondence courses, right? So back in the day when people mailed things to each other and stuff like that. And because when we got the accreditation document, I was like, who's doing correspondence education? Like, why is this even on here? And I went to a conference, and there was an entire community college kind of in Southern California, right on the border of Arizona. And they serve a large prison population. And so like 60% of their classes are correspondence-based education. So there are people that are doing it, but it's generally for prisons and things like that. Okay, so those are kind of niche models. So if you're teaching a hybrid course, you are considered a blend of online and traditional, and any online portions of your course should establish regular and effective contact. Okay. Regular and effective contact, sort of as defined by the Inspector General, and this is the official who fined Western Governors, called it substantive interaction is defined as relevant to the subject matter and involves a student interaction with a course mentor or required an individual submission of a performance task for which an evaluator provided the student feedback. And again, why this is important is because it's interaction that is based on the content of your class. So when we talk about students, you know, calling us on the phone or someone sending us an email, like we've had contact with that student wouldn't necessarily be considered R&E if it's not related to our curriculum. So a discussion board that just has general questions on it would not necessarily be considered weekly, regular, and effective contact because it's not addressing the curriculum. You know, maybe posting a video, if you're not asking students to then do some sort of assignment that you will provide feedback on, then that video is not considered contact, okay? So any sort of contact we have needs to also then include the ways that, you know, we would interact with the curriculum. And so in our DE handbook, there's kind of a little diagram that Brent made, and it shows instructor, content, student. And so contact can really be when the student interacts with the content and then we interact with the submission that was given back, right? So think of it as like a little triangle. So when we think about course content as being regular and effective contact, that's kind of how you want to think about it. Something like this, where we're talking live to each other, that would be direct student to instructor contact, right? Still over course material, right? Like you have you know, we're talking about your essay or whatever. And then obviously like anytime we interact within the system, so emails, that kind of thing, those would all be considered contact. And so the March 2011 Dear Colleague letter issued by Financial Aid, they kind of clarified the outdated legal definition. So you can see, if you read the Title V definition, I don't know, have any of you have ever read this before? So the title, can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So a regular portion of a course conducted through DE includes, and then it talks about field trips, library workshops, right? So this is because this is like early 2000s, I think they came out with that definition. And, you know, obviously technology has progressed so much since then. It's not really a definition that actually helps us meet that standard, right, in any kind of way. So the Dear Colleague letter really talks about what are then some of these more modern ways, right, other than field trips, you know, that we can really interact with our students. And it, you know, learning sessions, so like if you're doing an online conference, those would be considered contact. Submitting an academic assignment and receiving feedback, that's considered a form of contact. Taking an exam, right, that then you will provide feedback on. Online discussions about course content, okay? Talking with faculty about course content, so if a student is talking to you, and faculty-guided independent study. I'm not 100% sure what they mean by that one, but so I think if a student is working on a project or something like that, and you are, you know, submitting feedback to them. So those are all ways that we can really meet that contact in a more modern, you know, kind of way. Jen?
Yeah. I mean, if you just have a student that wants to have a conference with you, I mean, are they going to come in and look at that and say, wow, you know, that was part of your regular, because that doesn't seem like regular. It may be effective, but it's
right.
Not.
So yeah, you want it to be regular, but then you also want it to be instructor initiated. So if you're constantly inviting them in, right, to be part of that, then that is instructor initiated contact. And then that would meet the legal requirement. But if you are not, if the student calls you on the phone, that's not instructor initiated. So you're not actually meeting that contact requirement for that class. Does that make sense?
I mean, I have students who plagiarize, and I have to tell them to come in to meet me to discuss the plagiarism. So, but I don't know, you know.
That wouldn't, yeah, that we'll get into that a little bit because it does need to be specifically related to course content. So that would be in that sense, but it also needs to be regular. So that's part of your contact, but it's not going to meet your sort of overall requirement, if that makes sense. But you're making yourself available, and you're saying that these are the ways I will contact you, and so that is important.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So things that are not considered regular and effective contact are self-graded or computer-generated feedback. So if your exams are self-graded on Canvas, then those are not going to be considered. If you record a webinar, and anything that you make optional is not considered R&E. Okay, so if you have like a bunch of optional assignments or optional videos, none of those are going to count. And again, this last one, contact with staff who are not directly related to instruction, that's going to be part of that competency-based education model. Okay.
So if we do a Zoom and it's optional, that does not count?
Right.
Ooh, so we have to, make them come and do the points and all that. Okay.
So right here when it says, that they either have to watch or interact, if they can't watch, interaction does count. That's right.
Right. So
Okay.
you have to watch the webinars and then interact with the instructor. And again, interaction can be through content. So if they wrote a summary and then you provided feedback on that summary, then, they've interacted with that video in some way.
Okay.
Right? I think
As long as they're interacting.
Yeah. The key here is that you are reaching out to them,
Okay.
right? Not just posting like a chapter or a video, but you're reaching out to them and then you're making them interact with that content somehow and then grading the assignment that went with it.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So what does ACCJC want to see, right? Because this is the important question. So when they go into your class, what do they want to see? They want to see that it's demonstrated and documented. So sometimes we have these things that we do that they're not going to see, right? They're not going to see our conferences. They might see a link to the recording or, something like that, but they're not going to be there. So one of the things we want to make sure is that we've documented in our syllabus, this is how we contact you, right? This is how I interact with you in my class. I have these conferences every week or once, whatever, and I'm here so you can talk to me, right? And so that's there. They need to occur regularly. So like Jen said, right? We need to know how often these things are occurring. And so you really want to have like something in your class that is occurring every week that's kind of demonstrating that contact. So maybe it's a group assignment and peer reviews and you're responding to them, or a discussion that you're participating in, right? Or at least grading and then giving feedback on it. If you're not going to participate in the discussion itself, then that's where on your syllabus, you would want to put that in like, I may or may not participate in the discussion, but I will give you feedback on the posts you've given, right? So where should the student expect that contact? And then finally, ACCJC wants quality. So for example, sending out an announcement every week technically would qualify as contact, right? But if it is the only contact you're having with students, that's not going to be a very high quality contact. So you don't have to have a conference every week. Like one week you could send out an announcement and say, hey, here's what's going on this week. Here's our learning objectives. This is what we covered last week. Heads up about all of these things. You can go ahead and that would count as your contact for the week, but you probably don't want that to be your only form of contact all the time, right? Does that make sense? But you don't have to feel like you need to plan some extravagant, webinar every single week of your class. You're probably also going to burn your students out if you do that.
Right.
They're going to be like, why are we could just be in class, right? Because again, you're giving them.
It would be a discussion board, sometimes a video, sometimes announcements, sometimes.
Right. You can change it around, and just in your syllabus, you should have some sort of, indication of these are the ways we are going to interact with each other. Okay. So I just wanted to go over a few of the things in our DE handbook to be aware of. And then if anybody has more questions, obviously, let it go. Class design gives you some, indications on that. So this is not an ACCJC thing, but this is just sort of Clovis Community College's guidelines for courses. And these are based on the online education rubric. Okay, so the instructors ask for feedback from their students, and Tracy and I have talked about this before. It's really a best practice of distance education that you're asking your students, you know, what things worked well for them, maybe like what didn't work so well, that kind of thing.
When do you do that, Teresa? Do you do that at the end? Do you do that, you know?
Well, I think if you do it in the middle, sometimes you catch more students. So I'll try around midterm to kind of do like a self-reflection thing. I try to do that in all my classes anyway, just sort of where are we? How do you feel going into midterms, you know, about your performance? What are the things, you know, and I try to get them to self-reflect on themselves a little bit as well as my class, right? Like what things could you be doing differently?
Yeah.
That will help you be more successful. It's not all about me, people, you know. You know, one of the things I did do this semester is kind of an on-coursey kind of thing. I did what we call the next actions list. I made it at the beginning of the module, and I made them, it's basically like a little calendar grid thing they have to fill out of like, what are the things that you're doing this week? How are you going to meet the learning objectives, that kind of thing. And the rest of the module won't open until they do that. So make them do it by like Tuesday to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like students have taken a lot more responsibility for what they're doing this semester, and that's been really good. So I can show you how to set that up if you're interested in one of those too. Syllabus, and this is one of the things you definitely want to have for accreditation. So in your syllabus, some type of effective communication statement. Okay, how are you going to meet these requirements? What are you, you know, like for contact, how are you, the instructor, going to meet those, right? We're going to have conferences, we're going to have discussion boards. What's my role as the instructor going to be in that discussion board? All those kinds of things. Student feedback should be frequently, and it should be timely. Some kind of, you know, like discussion board things. So you guys can kind of look through these, but these are all straight out copied from our DE handbook. Okay, any questions about any of those things? Yeah.
How many contacts per week, or, you know, is there quantification of something?
Generally it's kind of, you know, sort of again one of those things like born out of those Dear Colleague letters, but it looks like ACCJC is looking for about once a week. You know, that you've sort of like one of those activities that we've talked about, whether it be an announcement, a discussion board, a video or something, a conference, like something that they're interacting with you, occurs about once a week in addition, you know, to their other work or studying or reading or whatever they're doing.
I know this is a really bad question, Teresa, but there's a lot of words. You know, because I have about 8 essays during the semester. Those are 500 words. I mean, I'm talking about 8,000 to 10,000 words.
Yeah.
With each student, and when the whole class ferrets out, since it starts at actually 65, I'm usually 30 to 40 students trying to do that all the way up to the end. I mean, at the beginning, I'm at 55 or so, and
yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, is there a word count is what I'm trying to suggest.
Oh, no, the word count would be, no, definitely not. I would say, you know, for that, like particularly if you're doing a lot of writing and you're providing them feedback on that, you know, definitely think about your own grading. Are there rubrics? Because rubrics are still considered feedback.
Is that okay? Well, that's good to know.
You know, particularly if you're building comments into those rubrics, and so sometimes they're a little bit more work up front, but they can definitely help. Like I use them for my discussion boards, you know, and that kind of thing. So they can definitely help with, you know, some of that. But yeah.
So there's no
No, because they don't.
suggested word count or anything?
Oh no, they don't. It's just contact. So that
Mm.
you are making contact with those students. So if you do have a lot of like, you know, I don't, and again, it's just kind of getting that balance where again, you don't have to do the same thing every week. So maybe some weeks, you know, I'll really be in the discussion board a lot. But then if we're having a conference that week, then maybe I'm not in the discussion board as much and I'm going to give kind of more verbal feedback, right, in the conference, and then rely more on the rubric for my
Yeah, no, I'm
Jennifer.
not thinking of word count for the teacher. I'm thinking of word count for the student.
No,
You-
not at all, because that would be part of your curriculum more so than like the class. You know what I mean? Like,
So I could have a class where the whole semester they write 2,000 words.
base whatever your COR is. Yeah, that's based on your course outline of record.
And if it's a general ed class, there's a requirement.
There's a requirement for specifically for a DE course or for
General ed.
Yeah, that's just for that would be
face
just
for
for
DE.
history course, not because it's DE.
But
Okay.
as far as regular and effective contact goes, they basically just want to know that you're not a robot. That you
Yeah.
actually taught your class. You didn't just turn it on and then go to the beach for the semester, which
Yeah.
is essentially what they did at Western Governors.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but they didn't have classes there.
right. Because what they don't want is they don't want to log into your course and have a link to your textbook stuff, and then they go into the textbook stuff and you never interact with your students and you never post announcements and there's no discussion happening in your Canvas. That's what they don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not going to say like, I mean, unless your content, I mean, unless your contact isn't substantial, right? They're not going to say, oh no, you didn't have, like, it's not enough words or whatever.
Right.
Don't have a discussion board where students just post their name every week. That's not,
And we're not joking.
that actually happened.
Food nutrition.
And that's not what they're looking for.
Right.
But it doesn't have to, you know, add a whole lot of extra to your class.
Yeah. And like I said, you can definitely use a rubric, you know, to grade that.
Yeah, no, I understand the
Yeah.
instructor side. I'm just trying to think about in terms of organizing what I need to get out of my students. Will they have any? You're telling me there's no word
That's going to be
qualification
like,
they're going to
right.
be looking at.
No, that's going to be like, it's basically like the content that you would have in your face-to-face class. If you assigned an essay in there, then you would assign the essay in your DE class, right? I mean,
But
those
My thing is I
content,
sign way more essays on my online class than I would ever assign in my face-to-face. Because I don't have any other way of knowing whether they really know the material. I mean, it seems to me.
right. In my face-to-face English class, we have lots of discussions that are face-to-face,
Yeah,
right? Every
Yeah,
day
of
we
course.
have that.
yeah,
You can't do that in my online class.
yeah,
So those are written, yes.
yeah.
I mean, there's just, yeah, I mean, those differences occur, but that's then considered contact. And for me, it's the best way for me to get my topic across, right? Like, this is what we do in English. And so everybody's going to be a little bit different. So it's really just, are you meeting that contact requirement is what they're looking for.
So what I'm hearing you say is they're going to look at our syllabus and look at our. So what I have communication policy, and then I just, as we're talking, I highlight it. So I have bullets, and I put emailing, and I put that they could call me. I mean, I'm just going over. Yeah, I put more.
But again, you want it to be, because remember, it's instructor initiated contact. So yes, they can call you, but that's not instructor initiated.
Okay, discussion board, weekly announcement, Zoom conferences, live office hours.
Right. So this is how I will be available to
Right.
talk to you and to talk about content is in these places at
Right.
these times or whenever announced or whatever.
Okay.
So would you be willing to share a syllabus that is done well?
Yeah, it's in the DE handbook. We
Okay,
actually have a
perfect.
statement.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Right.
we are.
Okay.
We
And
put
that's
those in there.
A big part of my job is to let you know as a student the way.
All right, so a couple things coming up for our DE program.
And in our
CCC is planning on applying for the OEI exchange. So kind of think about that if you'd like to have your course in there. Okay.
What would be the advantage of having your course in the OEI exchange?
If your course is full, there's probably no advantage for you, to be honest.
Got it.
If you are really working on like enrollment, then yes.
Oh, okay.
Then because you're getting statewide enrollment available.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah. So we're interested in creating a course review process on our campus. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard about the OEI course review process. Tracy and I are both certified as course reviewers. And so, you know, we would love to start one here, do some training. And it's really different than just an evaluation because I feel like online classes are very different, right? When you have that face-to-face evaluation, someone comes in, they watch you teach for, you know, an hour, right? And then they get this little snapshot into your class. But really an online course review lets somebody look at your class as a whole, right? Where do we start? Where do we go? What is the student experience, right, as they go through there? How are we meeting these requirements? And it's actually much more, I don't want, like, I want to say a little bit more rigorous.
It's hard to hear you. Can you go?
I know.
I'm sorry.
So it's much more rigorous than I don't know, like than a regular evaluation or even than the accreditation policies, right? Because this is really looking at your entire class, looking at accessibility, looking at course design, looking at your students' experience in there. So it's a little bit more of an in-depth process, but I think it's a really, really good one. We are going to use the OEI rubric for the process when we started. So if you were interested in doing it, please let Tracy and I know if you want to be trained to be a course reviewer or if you want to volunteer to have your course reviewed. Okay. All right, anybody have any questions?
No, not anything other than my usual. How many words? Teresa, I just have to tell you, I'm way behind right now, and I'm trying to solve that problem.
Rubrics.
You know?
Rubrics.
Rubrics will change your life. You don't even have to make them yourself.
You know what?
Just Google it.
Yeah.
Google history discussion board rubric.
Yeah. No. That's
One.
making it wouldn't be too much of a problem, but right now, when you transfer the class over, if you don't have rubrics, it does not give you an option to add a rubric to an assignment, as far as I could tell. I've gone in so many times.
If you have a Turnitin assignment,
Yeah.
you cannot add a rubric to a Turnitin assignment.
You have to add the rubric and then make it a Turnitin assignment. So you can make it not a Turnitin assignment, add the rubric, and then make it back a Turnitin assignment.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that.
So, but your
And you can
discussion
even do
board.
it
Sorry.
after students have submitted to the Turnitin.
You can't wait. Say that again.
Yeah. So if your students have turned something into a Turnitin Dropbox and you realize you forgot to add your rubric, you can go to the assignment and make it not a Turnitin assignment, add your rubric, and then make it back a Turnitin assignment, and then your student submissions will be there.
Ah. Wow. Well, that's nice.
Yes.
Tracy, I might have to come ask you for some help. Anyway, okay. Turn it in. Well, I'm anyway.
If you're using Turnitin, you can also create a rubric and turn it in as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm not I mean, they're doing it through Canvas, so it'd be more convenient for their grades if I have the rubric on Canvas, I think.
You should be able to use.
Then you should be able to add a rubric to it.
Every assignment I have that when I've transferred a class, I can't find, there's no upper right-hand corner. Here's the little, menu, and then it says rubric on there. It just says delete.
It's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. No, there's no bottom rubric either.
Okay, what's your class? I'm going to look it up right now.
History 11. History 11. But yeah, come on in.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, I'm still in the
Oh, I'm
call
sorry about
print
that.
here,
Okay.
but
I can
Yeah.
talk to you later.
yeah, we can
Okay,
talk
sorry
later.
about that.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, so I got to figure that out. I figured I'd have to just destroy all my assignments just to get them new, and then they would have rubric
No,
options.
never do things like that. Always ask Tracy first. Never dump everything. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop recording. We can still keep talking, but
Yeah.
so for all of those of you watching this later, if you need any help with anything, making a rubric, if you're interested in the course review, come see Tracy and I.